In today's video, I'm going to be replacing pipes. I'm Stephen from AutoNight, a very warm welcome to another video. Now, whether it's the passage of time or the incorrect use of E10 fuel, fuel lines can deteriorate and harden, and this has happened on my scooter. I have elected to replace all the fuel lines and the oil lines from the two-stroke tank to the pump, from the pump, and while I'm there, I'm going to be replacing filters too. I've got myself some new fuel hose and also an inline fuel filter. Put a clip over here and make sure I get the direction of flow the right way round. Fit the filter, crimp the clip. That is nice and secure. I do the same for the other end and crimp it once again. That is neat. Access is a little tricky, but I was able to crimp that on there as well. To prevent any of this from dropping down and potentially making contact with a hot exhaust, causing a fire risk, I've cable tied that all together there in a bundle. We now have a neatly reinstated fuel line and fuel filter with crimp connectors throughout. The oil pump was adjusted here by ensuring that these two marks line up at full throttle. I want to now replace the oil lines from the oil tank to the pump, and then this bit here, which comes from the pump to this little connection here in the carburettor. I've got this very narrow bore pipe here, and it's clear. That way we can see that it's bled out okay, because with this you never know if there's an air bubble in there, and we certainly don't want to be starving it of oil. Now, there is a little section here that we can move back, which is like a little heat shield to protect those two pipes from the exhaust. But I need to go around to the other side, and the reason for that is that where those two pipes actually connect, there's a metal plate, and that needs to be removed. I thought I'd have to take the exhaust off to do this, but I've got a feeling I might not have to. It's a little bit tricky to see in here for light reasons, but I can actually get a 4mm Allen key down in there. So the piece covering those hose connections turns out to be part of this main bracket that holds the cable here. So this other 4mm Allen key bolt needs to be loosened. Before I completely remove that, I just need to remove this cable from the oil pump. That was a bit of a two-handed job, but that's now free. I don't really want to withdraw the whole oil pump, I just want this piece to come off. My conclusion is that due to the shape of this, it's not actually possible to get this off, and the oil pump is wanting to come with it. Now, I can probably get to these pipes anyway just by sort of moving this around. So I can see the one that comes down from the oil tank, which is here. I'm going to clamp that off first at the oil tank. With that clamped off, there should be no loss of oil from the tank. And then set about disconnecting those under there. After a little bit of wiggling around, it soon became apparent that I could get the oil pump out without removing the exhaust. This is a result. I'm going to give this a good clean up because it's filthy. Now this is out, it is so much easier to give it a decent clean. I've just got to make sure that none of this goes into any of the oil ports, as I don't imagine we want any dirty particles going into that system. So I just keep those tubes facing downwards. I've cleaned up the mating surface there. I can now fit this pipe. I haven't got a clip that'll go around that, so I think I'm going to use a cable tie. That's nice and secure. So that's the outlet. Now for the inlet. I have this clear pipe here, and once again the emphasis is on being able to see the oil passing through. And just crimp that into place. So we've got two really secure pipes on there now. That's the advantage of getting this right off to do this. It would have been impossible to have crimped that on if this was in situ. Bit fiddly, but I think we're there. We refit this over here like that. Smaller pipe goes through this little gap here. This passes through here and then goes up to the filter, which should be arriving through my letterbox at some point while I'm making this video. And this pipe terminates on here. Everything's back together at the oil pump, and I have rechecked the alignment of the marker on the throttle cam, and everything's fine. I'm really happy with that. Only thing is, it will be difficult to get to the bleed screw there, because I kind of need to get to it from that angle. I'm very pleased to say that my 2-stroke oil filter has arrived. It's important to observe the direction of flow arrow pointing downwards and crimp into position. And the next stretch of pipe, that's crimped into place. The last piece has to be swapped over very quickly to prevent too much fluid loss. In the end, I have to loosen and move the oil pump again to get to the bleed screw. And the oil is now in the process of running down this pipe. I need to expel as much air as I can. This may take a little bit of time, tapping the pipes and waiting until fluid runs freely from this hole without any air bubbles. I'll fanny about with this off camera, with the system nicely burped of any air. And with a nice steady flow from the bleed hole, I can now refit the screw on the pump and then get the pump refitted for the second time. And this sleeve and this heat shield all reinstated correctly. Once I've got the kickstarter assembly back on, I can then kick it over with the ignition off just to bleed the oil through here. Well, that's going to have to be it for this video, because until I've got an operational starting mechanism, I can't actually bleed that last section of oil pipe that runs between the 2-stroke oil pump and the intake manifold or carburetor. So in the next video, I'll be reinstating the transmission and the kickstarter, electric starter, and then we can bleed that section. We also have the front pads and the caliper rebuild to come too. So these will be in the next video, hopefully next week. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again in another one very soon.